Yeah.
Put my glasses on, might be able to see something.
I wonder if they can turn that down a little.
Okay,
They can see
welcome
us,
back.
I think that's
Yeah.
what matters.
We have actually had a we had an epiphany this morning. What we're gonna do together is quite big. It is. But it's gonna be fun, you know. But it's a big thing we're striving for, but it's gonna be fun. And I've brought up on stage 4 people, including myself, who has been on a journey to do something amazing. But most people you see me on stage here, yesterday, today. You have not seen the 15 years before this. You have not seen the things we've been through to be able to be here. And I know many of you has that same journey, that same hero's journey. And we wanted to touch on that because there's been a lot of challenges, obstacles, resistance. People who just don't understand this thing that we're trying to say. How do you deal with that? Like, how do you deal with shouting that the earth is round when everyone else says it's flat? And all of you guys have been through this in some way, shape, or form. And let's talk about that. So, up on stage, Sven Roman, give him a huge round of applause. Sue Adstrum, round of applause. And Neil, since you said how your name should be pronounced, I've been afraid to say your last name. Please tell everyone now. Now is your opportunity. What is your real last name?
Theise.
Theise.
Ah.
Neil Theise, everyone.
I'm coming out as a German.
That's a problem with a European moving to the US, basically. I want to ask you quickly, like, why are you here on stage? Why are you here?
We are going to talk about the issue, what we have done to survive.
Yeah, perfect. Sue, why are you here on stage?
To have fun.
Amazing, amazing. Neil, why are you here?
Yeah, when you said what the topic was, I really can't resist participating because people look at the stuff that I've done that they recognize and go, wow, look what he did, and can't see what that took to get there. And all the people behind it, too. I think it's important to highlight that.
Yeah. And I'm here, I think I'm going to start, just to, warm you up a little bit. Stand, sit,
Sit.
stand, sit, I think so, yeah. Sit.
That was me being daddy.
Yeah. So I would say that how many of you have been in contact with or heard the podcast Fascia Guide? A lot of you. Great. For those of you who haven't, it's free, it's online, it's about transferring research into knowledge suitable for ordinary people. But we started that podcast, me, Hans, and Per Johansson was on stage yesterday, with the idea to talk about why we can't understand the body. And that was because we had 10 years of people not believing, like this fascia thing, is there any research? Like, yes, there's a lot of research, why don't you just look it up? And but we found that there was something in people that made them not, people weren't able to take in the information of looking at the body as a whole or looking at the body as living. And especially here in Sweden, that was a struggle because we're very reductionist by nature. And to speak about that, and then we got into talking about history, and we talked about the Catholic Church and the impact the Catholic Church has had on Western society and Western ideas. So that was fun. That was more like us getting into, but then something happened in 2020 with the pandemic, and there was a lot of anger, frustration, polarization. There was a lot of social issues coming up from both directions. And Hans and Per, they came to me in the fall of 2020. No, I came to them. I'm like, I'm so tired to hear the anger and frustration in you. Let's do something about this instead. Let's talk about the living body in a different sense. And right then and there, we took a stand on what the fascia guide should be, that it should be something that is not critical of people, systems, organizations, persons, and not hallelujah, not that kind of podcast either, but something in between. Because someone said to me, it's important that when you think that you're right and that everyone else is wrong, you can't tell them that they're wrong, because when they realize that they were wrong, they need to be able to come back. You need to be open to accept them afterwards. So it's important that we don't say that this is how it is, and this is the only way it is, and this is just, follow my lead, and I will lead you into the grave, and fuck everyone else. Sorry, my language. That's not how we should do it, I think. And that came from struggle, I think. I think you learn a lot from the struggle of the 10 years before. Who wants to start?
Well, I could start because I want to give an example how I have done, it's about the importance that you're not alone, the importance to connect with other people. If you have an idea that's controversial or that, and I think that's, and to spread the word when you meet other people on social media and so on. I was one of 3 physicians that launched the Doctor's Appeal in March 2021 in Sweden. It was an answer to the Great Barrington Declaration, and it was not so controversial, I think. We wanted that the treatment for COVID, we should focus on the vulnerable, and no restrictions, and we should not have vaccine passports. That was 3 issues. And we got in 2 weeks 5,000 signatures, but not a word in mainstream media, not a word. And I thought, what shall we do? What shall I do? So then I wrote an email to all the physicians and the researchers that had signed the appeal, and asked if they would like to be included in a network. And then we wrote a new article in one of the biggest daily newspaper, and it was published, but no other journalist in mainstream media wrote a word about that. But we continued, and we had this network of 100 people, and then we also began to have accounts on social media. And I think that because I work with this more than 10,000 hours for the last 4 years. How could I keep up doing this? Well, I think it's mainly because of the followers, mainly because of all the positive response I get on social media, that you are fantastic, that you're the reason that I am living today, some say. It's fantastic. So it's spreading, and now we are in a global mass movement of 100 million persons that we are in the beginning of a paradigm shift, I think. The whole healthcare system will change. And we are not alone, not at all. And I will just, the last thing I would like to say is, since 2.5 months, I have launched a series about We Don't Forget. So I have reposted short clips from films or articles from authorities, journalists, politicians that for 2-3 years ago that is totally crazy, and I have never had such an impact. One of the films has been viewed 210,000 times. 9 of all those posts have been viewed over 85,000 times. It's on Facebook and Instagram. And before that, we had only 2 posts that were viewed more than 85,000 times. So I will say we are in the middle, in the beginning, or maybe in the middle of a big, big, big change.
You can keep the mic. You can behålla micken. Är det din? So if we're changing a paradigm or changing a way of thinking, because you've been into those kind of ideas as well. I mean, there's a reason why you're here. What would you say is important? Because I must say, because it's kind of interesting, because we all, the 4 of us, comes from totally different worlds in a sense. I mean, I was drawn into this when I was 19, like a family business that's now evolved into, I don't know what this is even sometimes. You're a medical doctor who realized that I can't follow this path anymore, I need to go on another path. And you're a PhD, and you're a researcher, right? But you're also something else.
I'm a clinician.
Yeah, clinician.
No, my primary identity, and I retired a month ago, so I thought maybe I'd stop saying it, but it's like, no, I'm a liver pathologist.
Yeah.
The ideas I talk about up here, the research papers I publish, are not what I get paid for, and it's not my core identity. My core identity is I serve my patients. And I do it by sitting at a microscope, so so it's quiet, but that's what I do. I'm a clinician.
Yeah.
But everything else follows from that. Yeah.
So tell me more about the things you talked about before. You see your papers, you see your presentations, but what's behind all of that?
I think that there's a bunch of levels to it, and the primary thing, this comes from my Zen practice, but it's also the training for being a liver pathologist specifically, as opposed to other pathologists, because the liver has such a limited capacity to respond to disease, injury, aging, that one disease looks like the differences are extremely subtle. So if a clinician sends a biopsy and says, oh, this is hepatitis C, or better yet, someone in the operating room, when they take the biopsy, thinks it's a liver, it must be hepatitis C, and they write that down. If I look at that and look at the slide, I may very well call it hepatitis C and miss the disease that's actually there, or miss the other disease hiding behind it because I have a preconceived notion. So most pathologists, they look at the history, then the slide. Liver pathologists, we look at the slide. And in Zen practice, there's a Zen teacher who brought Zen from Japan, founded the San Francisco Zen Center, named Shinryu Suzuki Roshi. And he said, in the mind of the beginner, there are many possibilities. In the mind of the expert, there are few. And it's true. And my practice, my clinical practice, and I hope all of you who are doing clinical work, that this is part of it. When you enter, if you're treating patients, when you enter the room, to set aside what your preconceived notions of, oh, there's going to be this person who's 90 years old or 30 years old, or it's a man or a woman, or it's the person I saw last week, and assume that they're going to be the same person from last week that they, with the week in between. You have to remind yourself to reset and go, I don't know anything right now, and just be open to what's there. And then you can start to make hypotheses, differential diagnoses, have creative ideas about what you're seeing. And all my scientific work has grown out of looking at slides, and every once in a while I see something, and I tell this to my trainees. If you see something in a slide and you ask your mentor or your teacher, what's that? I haven't seen it before, and the teacher says, oh, well, you see that sometimes, it's not really important. That's a career. That's a big discovery. So where the interstitium stuff is concerned, for my entire career, if I look at fixed tissue on a slide and there's connective tissue there and there are little white spaces in it, like cracks, I was told those are cracks. They're an artifact of the processing. The artifact of the processing is that they've shrunken down so they don't look like big spaces. So they look like cracks. And we were wrong about that. And at some point there was a reason to go, wait a second, why haven't I looked at these and pay attention to them? So that's the beginning. But the other, what follows from that is like a complex system, and it is a complex system. It's a social complex system. So what are the possible outcomes? I make a discovery. And I've made a bunch that were brand new, and some of them were heralded as big things, and where are they now? And then there are things that I discovered that I thought it was a big thing and no one seemed to notice. And then every once in a while I get lucky. The interstitium stuff I did, the only reason anyone saw that paper, because this is not a topic that anyone cared about on the planet, as far as I could tell, within allopathic medicine, which is where it was going to get published, was that there was no other science news that week. And so the paper came out, and a press release from NYU, my institution, went out, which mentioned in the press release, they say this could be a new organ, because I had said that in conversation with the PR guy. It's not in the paper. And suddenly, Stephen Hawking had died 2 weeks before, and he took up 2 weeks of news. And then there was nothing. Our paper came out, and 3 times in the next 2 days, a taxi driver in New York City looked at me in the mirror and said, "You're that new organ guy."
Imagine like sitting in that office where they make those decisions. It's like, oh, we can't run Hawkins another day. Is there anything else?
Someone says there's a new organ. Do you know
is
how many
that guy again? He's been, he's been around.
Yeah.
Let's just go. I want to go home to my kids. Let's just do this.
There have been 4 new organs since our new organ. Have you heard of them? No. So who cares? So it's entirely unpredictable, and it may be the divergent ant over there that did something, or the divergent ant over here that didn't do something, and suddenly it's there. The hallmark for me, I'll finish with this, stop talking, is when I did my stem cell research, which was focused on adult stem cells are not organ dependent. Bone marrow will make bone marrow and blood, liver stem cells will make liver, etc. But no, in fact, they can all make each other, and they move around the body doing that. That idea came out, and the paper got rejected over and over again. Often very dismissively.
And how does that feel?
At the time, I was like, this is good work. We have checked every box. And at first, all the critiques, we went back and did more work to answer those critiques. The paper got better and better and better. When the major paper finally came out, and it was the paper that led to George Bush's address to the nation limiting embryonic stem cell research. It was because of our paper on adult stem cells. One reviewer said, I know they've answered all our questions, I still don't believe it, reject the paper. One said, well, they've answered all the questions, I still don't believe it, but I can't object to you publishing it. The third one said, I don't believe this, and our laboratory has now begun experiments to prove that this is incorrect. And the authors of the paper should be told, and this was in the journal Cell, which is one of the highest tier journals on the planet in any field. I saved the letter, but I memorized the line. The editor-in-chief wrote to us and said, as one of the reviewers said, for each of the authors, this paper will be a reputation maker or a reputation breaker, and offered us the chance to withdraw the paper.
I want to stop there because I want to humanize you. You know, you're a guy. You know, I've seen you in your tank top in your bed in Lisbon on a Zoom call. So it's like that was such a.
Yeah,
I would say that was one, and you guys see.
We have no
well.
furniture on our apartment in Lisbon. We only have a bed.
That was a big like because we were on a Zoom call, recorded it for the Fascia Guide as an interview before this event, and he answered in a black tank top.
It's Lisbon. It's hot.
Okay, yeah.
And I only have a bed. So.
And all these tattoos. I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah, I have a lot of tattoos.
But I think those are things that like. I mean,
Bastard.
you are in some. I would say, and I think people agree with listening to yesterday, in some sort of genius in some ways, but it's also. You're a human being, like you're a fellow citizen. So how does it feel to be rejected or to have that moment where you like withdraw or risk your career?
Well, at the time it was horrifying. Where I was going to head was, and I'll leap ahead, every interstitium paper I've published since, that wasn't interstitium, but all this interstitium work has gone out to journals and been rejected. And each time it gets rejected, there's someone who says, this is great. There's someone who says, this is old news, nothing new here. And there's someone who says, either give them a chance or not worthy of the journal. When that happens to me now, when I get those sorts of responses, I'm excited because I know I'm onto something. My colleagues are like, no one's going to publish our work. And I was like, don't worry. That's how important this is, because it's one thing to have something rejected because it's bad work or you missed a point or it's not complete. You haven't proved the point you're trying to prove. And then reviews that come back, even if they're harsh, it makes it better. You know, I don't want those mistakes to be in front of people. I want to make this paper as solid and strong as possible. But when I get that kind of thing, I'm like, oh yeah, this is so new that people can't see it. Because they're not looking with a beginner's eye, they're looking with an expert's eye. And the work is requiring them to look with a beginner's eye. But with this paper, the stem cell thing, I was working with my colleague Diane Krause at Yale, and this particular paper depended on extraordinarily expert persnickety work by a colleague of hers at Johns Hopkins. And named Saul Sharkis, and we're the three major authors on the paper. Diane and I were co-first authors, Saul was senior author, and we knew what we were doing in our laboratory, but we weren't in his laboratory, and vice versa. So we got on the phone, can we really trust your people? It's so distrust amongst the three of us. And then we were like, no, we know who we are as people. We knew Saul, he knew us, and then we were like, no, we're just going to trust each other. And we went forward. And that paper really exploded things. And then I was at a meeting a couple of months later. Because of that paper, there was a meeting sponsored by the National Academy of Science in Washington to discuss stem cell policy. And the man who wrote the report for Congress on behalf of the National Academy of Science, who helped sponsor this meeting, told me that he was the third reviewer whose experiments were already started to prove that our work was incorrect. And he was proud of that. he thought he was going to win a Nobel Prize for bone marrow stem cells, he told me. And if our work was true, he wouldn't win a Nobel Prize. He had invested in an embryonic stem cell company, and if adult stem cells can do what embryonic stem cells can do, then it would be a bad investment for his company. And he's just like that. And he said this to me. And then he published his paper, and it showed the opposite result to ours, but he had designed the experiment to make sure he would get a negative result. And then, so we wrote but that was published in Science, top-tier journal. Ever since then, when anyone talks about adult stem cell plasticity, those are the two papers that are published. There's a pro paper, a seminal pro paper, and a seminal against paper. We wrote a critique of his paper, sent it to the journal. He wouldn't write a response, so they wouldn't publish our critique. Finally, they decided they would publish our critique because we pushed. And he wrote a response, a full page, 3 columns, of pretty much nothing except for one paragraph in the very middle of the very middle column, which no one probably ever read, which said, "We agree our research has no bearing on the findings of Theise, Sharkus, and Krauss." So he retracted it. It's still forever these 2 papers. And you'll notice how much clinical stem cell therapies are out there. We're still waiting, right? In a big way because of him and because of that.
That sucks.
It sucks. But then, so what do you do?
Yeah. Well, what do you do? Yeah.
You just keep going. Yeah. And then if you're good at what you do and you're paying attention, it may be important or it may not be important. I've got lucky. I did something important again, it seems. And this time, it got traction. And there was pushback for sure. There was a lot of miscommunication because I didn't realize there were worlds out here concerned with the stuff I was studying because my world had excluded their opinions, and that's a whole other, which you may speak about if I let you.
If you ever let her speak, she will speak about it.
But then that's where we were talking outside. That's where the humility part comes in. I could have come into fascia world like a bulldozer and said, "You guys haven't proven anything. You haven't published papers in the real journals, etc." I could have been that person, and it would have been like the stem cell stuff. And instead, I sort of was like, "Oh shit! I had no idea you guys were out here." Jean-Claude and I had a famous moment.
Can I recite that moment because I was there?
Yeah. Oh, you were there.
Yeah, I was there. So he was speaking at the 2018 Fascia Research Congress in Berlin, and I think you were the first speaker. I think.
No, Carla was the first speaker.
Okay, you were the second one, and you spoke, and I think it was really interesting. And then the first person standing up afterwards was you, Jean-Claude, and you said, "First of all, congratulations."
And I was like,
for finally seeing the light, or for finally being here, or something like that. It was such a wonderful, welcoming, but also a nice.
Can I correct that story slightly?
Yeah.
So, I started my talk by acknowledging I had no idea you were all out here, and I apologize. My colleagues and I just didn't know. And then I gave the talk, and the fact is there is no light between the fascia world and interstitium world, which is us, because there's no one doing it. And then I got the rock star fascia world response to my talk. Then there were questions, and it was all kind, and we thought we'd gotten out of the room, and I'm watching Jean-Claude over here, because he'd already sent me an email, and I'm watching him down here. Nothing. And then they announce, "Okay, we'll break for lunch now." And Jean-Claude stands up and reaches for the microphone. And I'm like, "Oh God, here it comes." And the room got quiet. And then what he actually said in the moment was, I never thought I would hear a pathologist say words like fractals, complexity, complementarity, thank you. And then he went on and invited me to come see his movie that night.
Well, I think that's an important part of it. Well, like I said before, like the welcoming, the inclusion, the open-mindedness, the humbleness. I think that's
The humility, I think that, of that list, the humility is the...
I think you will see nuggets here, how we should all, how we can move forward. What's important when we do that. Now, Sue.
I'll be humble and let you talk.
It's been interesting sitting here trying to work out, how long have I got?
As long as you want.
Okay.
You have time.
Trying to work out what's going to be helpful to people here. And it's like, I'll start from where I am now, and it's like over the course of my lifetime, I've faced many challenges, like everybody, and setbacks, and I've had failures, I've made mistakes, but from the perspective of where I'm now, I've learned to see them all as blessings. They've forced me to grow, they've forced me to change, they've forced me to become more resilient. So with what I'm talking now, it's sort of like, I don't want to focus on the negatives, but it's like they have happened, many of them, and some of them have been really nasty and cruel, but that's not going to be very helpful to you. And I think the first one that I can talk about here, it's a challenge that over half the audience here will have experienced. As a woman, as a mother, I graduated as a physio at a very young age. I did so with very high grades. I was on a career strategy that was going up very steeply. I absolutely loved what I was doing. I probably have been born with healing hands, and so my clients did very well. And then I got pregnant. Not with one baby, but with two. And so I took time out I had to step back from my career I chose to step back from my career to be there for my twin sons, and then 4.5 years later, their younger brother. So I wasn't able to carry on with this normal career path, which was already bringing me a lot of success and lovely attention, and it was very satisfying. I had to sacrifice that. And so it was like, okay, I'm getting a bit frustrated sitting here at home. What do I do? What can I do with my time? What can I learn? And so I learnt what I was able to. I studied organic gardening. I studied compost making. I studied homeopathy. I studied herbs. I studied massage. These were all things that were available to me in the way that my world was shaping then. Had nothing to do with this wonderful conventional career path that I just was quite attached to. And along the way with that, I had a sore back that it had been treated in all of the conventional ways, but I still had this really bad low back pain. And in New Zealand, there weren't ROLFers, structural integration practitioners, in those days. One just happened to visit my city, and I had a series of rolfing treatments with her. It totally cured my back pain, and it's lasted. And I heard her talk about fascia. I was like, what's that? We never studied that in anatomy. Filed it away. And then probably about a year later, I was visiting a friend in Boston in the US, and she'd had a really severe whiplash injury. And she came from a family that was very medically conventional. Nothing had helped her whiplash syndrome. And somebody referred her to a physio. She could go to a physio, that was okay. But this physical therapist had studied craniosacral therapy. So I met her and I got 10 minutes on her table. We talked for nearly an hour. I got 10 minutes on her table. She did something. I couldn't feel a thing. And those of you who've studied craniosacral will recognize that. I didn't feel a thing, but I came off the table absolutely convinced I need to come back to the States as soon as possible and study this. There's something in this for me. And 3 months later, I was beginning my craniosacral therapy studies, and I did a whole lot with Upledger. I did the whole lot with Hugh Milne. So I've done a lot of craniosacral training. My clients were getting amazing results with all sorts of pain conditions, mainly pediatric conditions, all sorts of things that defied the conventional way of thinking. They shouldn't have been getting these results. So I thought, look, I actually want to share this. And I tried talking to my physiotherapy colleagues, and that was really, it was horrible. There was one incident in particular where they said, oh, well, come and talk to our monthly physiotherapy society meeting. Come and talk to us. And I said, well, can I bring along a friend? She's a medical herbalist and a naturopath, and she does craniosacral. And it's like, yeah, come along and talk about it. When we got there, we found out they'd set it up as a debate, not as a talk. And they pitched their highest ranking academics, scientists against us. We didn't have a chance. And I was so angry about this. I was absolutely furious about what they did. It was just so horrible. How could my colleagues do this? It was so unprofessional. And I caught myself being angry, and I thought, I don't want to be angry. And meditated, and it was like, okay, how do I deal with this? How can I deal with this constructively? 1 month later, I'd enrolled at university, and I'd been incredibly rude about people who went to university. I had no intention of going to university in my life. Physiotherapy wasn't a university course when I did it. And my intuition bounced me across the campus. I went to all sorts of places I wouldn't have dreamed.
Can I ask you a question? I've heard you use the phrase, my intuition, a whole bunch this weekend.
Yeah.
Tell me what you actually mean and what that experience is for you.
For me, it's an inner knowing. It's very, very subtle. At times it's like, is that real? But I've learned to, when I've got an issue, a challenge, I just sit quietly and I just go inside and I say, well, how do I deal with this? What's the best way to do this? And usually within 24 hours, I know. And because I'm a bit of a wimp, I'll often follow up with some kinesiology, some muscle testing. Is this really what I meant to do? But I've learned, if I ask, I do it.
Where does that come from? Do you have a sense?
I think I was born with it.
If I pause you here, will you remember where you were so you can continue? Yeah? I want to do something with you guys to interact in a way. Because I've actually been studying intuition privately, not in work, for 15 years. Because I read in a book somewhere that the only way you can do things is that you work really, really hard and work a lot of hours. And I was like, I don't want to live a life working 15 hours a day. I want to make decisions better. And I think the person said there's no way to scale intuition. I was like, there must be. There must be a way to scale intuition. So we had this whole thing going into learning how to listen to your inner self, or listen to your body, or listen to whatever that is. We call the body the place where we exist is the body. And it's actually really simple. So I want to see how simple you think it is. So the exercise is that you first enter a state of mind where you're here. If that is breathing, if that is thinking of someone you love, if there is something, but just enter that stage of being there. You can close your eyes if you want to. And then you make the question a yes or no question, or a this or that question, like a very clear option, this and that. And then you use your two hands in front of you. So can you feel option number 1 in this hand and option number 2 in this hand? And then you just see what your body does.
I saw you do this yesterday.
Yeah.
On stage.
All the time. It makes decision making so quick. And the good thing is that when you do it again and again and again and again, all major decisions in my life for the last 10 years has been, or it's so quick. Then you have better access to your heart, you can speak quicker, you can think quicker, you can be more intuitive, and the more you practice it, the better it goes. Should I propose to my wife after knowing her for 4 months? Yeah, I should. That was crazy, she told me. She didn't tell her parents for a month because she was afraid it was too quick. But I knew intuitively after 4 months, this is it. Should we do this convention? Yes, we should.
Yeah.
I've even done it like playing poker.
Yeah.
Should I go all in or not on this hand? Yes, I should. So it's very, and it's not always right. I must tell you, it's not like a definitive yes or no, because sometimes I needed to learn that I shouldn't trust this thing in this scenario, blah, 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 I shouldn't use this for this person. So then you get like but yes, so many times it's correct. So to answer your question, that's how I feel it, and I think
and sometimes it's really hard.
Yeah.
I used a similar process. Do I stay in my marriage? I believed that marriage was a lifetime thing. You're in there for better or for worse. And I asked the question, and I got a no. You leave, and that was one of the most terrifying answers I got.
But it was the right decision?
It was the right decision. It was the hardest decision that could have happened. Yeah. But it was like, no, this is lifetime stuff. It's like how, what am I meant to do? And then a couple of years later, I don't know what to do. What do I do? And I got this, sell your house and leave. So I sold my house. I gave away most of my possessions. I moved to the other end of New Zealand, to a city I didn't know anybody in. I had nowhere to live. I didn't have a job. But I knew I needed to move to Auckland. And I did. And I had a job a week later. I had somewhere to live a week later. But, I started off living in a cabin in a motor camp because I didn't have any idea what I was doing there. But I knew I had to go. Yeah.
There's so many amazing things that comes from despair, or like being at rock bottom, or like being alone, and because when you see what you don't want, you realize what you want. It's like being with a person and you realize this is not it. That helps you find what you really wanted. And I think it goes for, I like the discussion we had yesterday as well also, but with the core principles. Like I think there are core principles of life, like things that are not fundamental truth, but kind of, like, it hurts to grow.
It does.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the little you. The little me can be really attached. It's like, it suits me being married. I still love the chap. It's like there's the little you's holding on, but it's what about the bigger me, that inner me? That's what I relate to, and that's where the hard decisions come, and it's where the decisions where you really step forward and growth come from.
Now you are talking about my field, because crisis, it's what makes you mature, and we have a problem in our culture. You shouldn't feel any. You shouldn't feel any pain. In our culture, then you will have a prescription for some kind of medicine that always have adverse events, adverse effects. And I think you have gone through things, all of us have done that. I have gone through a lot of crises in my life. But that had that has been very good, those crises, because and we must accept, if you want to be a mature, an adult, if you want to take full responsible, to be responsible for your life, you have to go through those kind of things. And sometimes you have to talk with your friends or with a professional. Sometimes you just have to talk with yourself, be with yourself, and think, what I have to go a new path. Yes.
Feel the fear and do it anyway.
And we had, when we planned this thing, it's not been a walk in the park, I will tell you. Like it's, we had like a point of no return, like now we have to decide to do this. And, you know, ticket sales, economic responsibility, will people show up, the program, all of these things, getting you guys together in the same thing, booking the flight. It's been so many things. It's been a emotional roller coaster. And then on Wednesday this week, it all like came to me. I finally like broke in a sense, but not from the overwhelming stuff, but from or overwhelming definitely, but not from the pain, but from the gratefulness of this actually happening. We felt that we already won. And then was like a calm in me. And then someone asked me, how do you feel? I was like, alive. It hurts. I cry. It's overwhelming. I feel grateful. I'm nervous. I'm excited. It's pain. It's all this, you know, amazing love and care, and also because we've seen now, because of the campaign we started, we've seen how many people are actually suffering. And we started talking about pain in a different sense. And suddenly we said that, okay, 1 in 5 has pain. Enough is enough. And we need to do something about this. And what we're doing is currently not working, so let's try something else. I said, let's just try it. And then they started popping up, the people in pain. And I've been in this for 15 years, and I know a lot of people are in pain. I've seen the numbers. But then I said, like, 1 in 5 has pain. I'm saying that publicly. 1 in 5 has pain. And then, like, chronic pain. And then they show up, and it's my neighbors. It's my friends. It's people around me. And I'm like, are you in pain? Yes, every day. And he's like he's happy, he's outgoing, he's social, he's like the light of our community, always, you know, getting people together, always doing things and so on. Wakes up with pain every day. Why don't you do anything? Well, because I don't want to spend 6 months trying to find the right person to talk to, and then another year or 2 years figuring out there's nothing you can do for me anyway. And I'm like, man, you're 30, 37, 38. You're young. Like, why? Why should we? Why? And there's so many people now popping up, and it hurts. It really do. So, yeah. But we can change that. We can. But we need to understand that it's going to be a struggle. But the struggle is also what helps us grow. I mean, if you guys haven't been through the things you've been through, you wouldn't be the people you are. And you're amazing people. Yes.
Yeah. I think we also have to think that Rome wasn't built on one day.
No.
This began in 1913 with Rockefeller Foundation. It was decided that the only treatment was these artificial medicines. And all of the allopathic medicine was thrown away. So it's been for this, like, in 112 years. And of course, the physiotherapists and all the people, they didn't like what you said. Of course, because they are living in another world than we. We are living in a much broader world. We are seeing more widely on things. But Rome wasn't built on one day, so we have to be patient.
I have one thing before I'm going to pass it on to you guys.
I want to ask Sue what her intuition says about how long it will take to build Rome.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's already happened.
I was going to say 5 years, but yeah, I like your
No,
better.
I think it's happened etherically. It's when we're catching up in the physical. It's happened.
Yeah.
It's not can we
Yeah.
make it happen.
Yeah.
It's happened.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Sorry.
It will come back. It will come back. Yeah. Finish your story. Or do you want to?
Nah, I
No,
don't think
it's okay.
it really needs to, except that, yeah, I suppose with the university stuff, I ticked lots of boxes, learnt a lot along the way, but I haven't, what I really want to get out, especially to the women in the audience, is I haven't had a conventional career. I wanted one. I wanted to be in jobs where I got paid for what I did, where my work got valued. It never really got off the ground. The clients I worked with valued the work very much, but because my work didn't really fit within the physiotherapy model, people had to pay to come and see me. And in New Zealand, everybody wants to get their treatment for free or subsidised by the government. So that means they have to go down certain channels to the doctor, to the physiotherapist, that sort of thing. And so I've never really fitted in, and that's been really, really challenging to me. And then came COVID. My clinical practice absolutely died. I was stuck in a bubble of one. We did a lot of social distancing and lockdowns in New Zealand. And I thought, right, once again, what do I do? And that was the Living Wetsuit book. I wrote that that was my COVID project. So it's like, I haven't been like these guys who've had satisfying, conventional clinical careers and affirmation and all of that sort of stuff. And yeah, my comment yesterday, E.T.'s come home, it's like yesterday was the first time I've ever spoken to done a presentation to anybody where I felt where people actually were receptive and clapped. There's just been the token at the end. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of love in this room.
Yeah. But it's like, I feel like I've come home. I'm in the right place. I'm happy to contribute however I possibly can. And it's like, this is something I can really contribute to. It's not about me. It's about manifesting this thing that's happened etherically. It's already there. But it's like, it's the first time I'm in the right place, and it just feels so good. Yeah. And yeah, it's taken 70 years to reach this place. So, if you are not having a conventional career path, you've had to take time out to look after family or relatives, or there's been the frustration. Just, it's okay. You learn from it. It enriches you. It makes you who you are, and makes you able to contribute when the time comes.
I think something that most people don't. I think we're trained to not think like this, but we have a very weird idea of time. Our culture. We don't care much about history. We're terrible at living in the now. We put all hopes in the future, but we can't think long term. Like it's, I struggle with this like daily. Part of my work is helping people make 5-year plans or 5-year visions, or realize that there is like 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Like to have that perspective, watch. And I think it's because we see ourselves as, okay, Axel from 5 years ago would have been terrified doing this. Like really terrified. What Axel in 5 years' time will do, I'm terrified of. But I have grown in 5 years. I've learned new things, I met new people, I gained new insight, I had 2 kids, things are changing, I'm changing. Things are changing, I'm changing. The way I'm thinking is changing. The people around me is changing. I'm surrounding myself with other people who can help me do other things. So we shouldn't be afraid of how to tackle the problems of the future, because we are not there yet. We are not those people yet. And I think because we had a lot of talks like this, like what should you do? And I talked yesterday about curiosity. One thing we have been doing systematically for a couple of years now, long time, but more systematically 5 years now, is to shake people. Because how do you decide to go after that idea? How do you decide to do that thing? How do you decide to do that thing? It's something that happens to you that shakes you. You see that the world is not what you thought it was. You swallow a red pill. Something is not right, and you need to. I can't sleep. I need to find out why this is not right. That drives something in you. And if you shake people, so that they can figure it out by themselves, not tell them, but shake them. So the goal is to create curiosity, or to make people a bit uncomfortable perhaps, or to shake them. It could be physically, like with the machines you train out there. It could be like literally shaking people. It could be confronting them with something, or being there when they are confronted by something. It could be your friend suddenly becoming ill. It could be someone you know getting cancer. It could be something that shakes you. And when that happens, catch them. So we have we actually used our Swedish podcast as a way to shake people. And there's especially 2 episodes. One is how dangerous stress really is. To get everyone to stress it's terrible, it's dangerous. And the other one is about sugar. And that's like the in-your-face episode. If you listen to the sugar episode, it's like, whoo. So, yeah.
How much time do we have?
Another 10 minutes or so. So it's.
I can do this in 2, I think.
Yeah.
Lately, I've been finding this story to be useful, though it's very upsetting. And one of the things I think about, I've been pulled at this weekend, is all this stuff is going on. Do I say back home? And Navid was talking to me earlier. There he is, about what's going on in Iran right now. And yet we're having these conversations about the etheric thing we're building, and we just have to manifest and stuff, and the tension between that. And I think we also have to be careful. So the story I wanted to share, and it's because of the complexity stuff, I've been invited into climate change rooms and sustainability rooms where people, their heads are on fire, the building's burning, and they don't know if anything they've done is going to be helpful or not. And so my father, the reason I have a German passport is my father was Jewish in Germany in the 1930s, not good. And so he was sent to England on the Kindertransport. His parents and his older brother were sent to Riga, which is where the German Jews were sent to be killed. My grandmother had the chance to send his older brother to Amsterdam, but she chose not to because she had already sent one son, couldn't bear to send the other son. And there was a family reunion. The village invited all the descendants in 2018 for the 80th anniversary of Kristallnacht. And on the way to that, to meet many relatives I'd never met before, I went to Riga for the first time. None of my family had gone back, and discovered that I could find everything about what happened to my grandparents there. The time they arrived on the track, the temperature on the track, the house they lived in the ghetto, it was still there. It's just a working class neighborhood. And I found where my grandmother was killed in the forest. Healing hands. Yeah. And in the moment when I stood there and realized, her body was somewhere down there with 1,000 others, who was she in that moment? And I thought, she probably died in that moment thinking, I've made all the wrong choices. I failed. I lost my younger son, I lost my older son, I lost my husband, and now I'm going to die. And that's what she died with. But this is the hard part. What she couldn't know is that she was the only one of her siblings and cousins who didn't lose a child. Because she saved my father by sending him away, which broke her heart. If she had sent my uncle to Amsterdam when she had the chance, he would have been sent to Auschwitz and would have died. Going to Riga, which was a work camp, gave him the chance to survive, and he did. She's got 24 great-grandchildren, several great-great-grandchildren. So the message, too, I think, is that we can strive and hope we're doing the right thing for ourselves, our families, our culture. You can't do any of it with a guarantee that you will know whether you were successful. You shouldn't even try to think whether you'll know you'll be successful. What would success even look like, and will you be around to see it? The etheric structure we're building may manifest physically after you and I are gone, because we're the older ones on the stage. And to know we have to do our best to look around with what's right in front of us, which is what she did. She did her very best. And didn't know whether she had made any right choices, thought she had made wrong ones. But she followed her intuition as best as she could. And the thing that may change things isn't this we talked about yesterday. It may be something grand like this, where you're able to start a movement for change that grows out. Or it may be simply how you held a door for someone in the morning. And you are unlikely to ever really know. And that has to be okay. All of that has to be okay. And then from there, I think the best things possible can happen. And it'll be nice if we're here to see the result.
Yeah.
We have a thing we usually talk about when we have our courses, workshops, educations, gatherings like this. So why not say it on this gathering as well? The reason why we have the slogan. Do you say slogan? Yeah.
Slogan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knowledge about the body in a simple way is because if you learn to understand your body, you can feel empowered by feelings. You learn to listen to your body, but also how it works and how to work with it. But it's also humbling because we realize we don't really know anything about the body, but we know a lot, but there is much we don't know. The other thing that we started talking about in the last 5 years is the one person. You never know what one person could do. So, what's the value of one person? One person you shake or love or support or help or do something for, that person could become the next, I don't know. It could also become the next Hitler. Like that is the impact of our meetings, is that you never know what one person can be. And I think you and I talked about that, right? If you look at the similarities from all these terrible leaders, the people who were afraid or didn't feel love or didn't love themselves or didn't love others.
It's always got to be, maybe it was Perleus, I can't remember who I spoke to. There's always going to be horrible pain and shame in someone like that.
Yeah.
You know, I find it hard to have compassion for them, but that's the edge of my practice, as we say. But that has to come. It has to come from some really deep suffering.
But the value of one person, like if you treat everyone you meet like that value, like if you treat them like the person they could become or the good they could do, then basically, to simplify it, if you just see people, look them in the eye, care for them, that's going to make a change.
But from this standpoint, there's nothing, yes, to everything you just said. But what's the flip side? This is speaking from, I'm here and I have the power to help someone there who's separate from me in some fashion. From the opposite standpoint of this all being one seamless unity that is a whole, if I put my hand on a hot stove, my left hand doesn't sit and think, what does that hand need? And do I want to be the one? I had other plans. I was going to go practice the piano, you know. When I see someone begging for money on the street, and I go through the calculation of, do they really need it? How much should I give them? I'm in a hurry. Do I have the time to stop? Oh, they make me nervous. Oh, you know, all that shit. Your hand is stuck on the stove. Your left hand goes and pulls it away. Because they're the same. It's one thing. So it's not just cultivating the ideas and concepts and practices. It's about cultivating a deep sense of connection that's knowing, that's inner knowing, that isn't about concepts. So that when the thing passes in front of you that needs attention, you act out of that deep knowing in the moment. And it's almost always just the right thing.
Yeah.
You have to prepare, and you can't make that happen, but you have, I think our obligation is to prepare ourselves. And you said things take a long time and it's hard work. You have to practice. But I think that's the obligation.
And I would like to say some words about change. You know the philosopher Kierkegaard, and he said that if you want to really get a contact with a person, you must meet her where she is. And that's the main thing, I think. And it's about tune in. I have 4 kids, and from the beginning, when they were born, I had to tune in them. And in the beginning, no words, it was hard to know if they screamed because they were hungry or tired or what was. And you had to really tune in. And when they were small, when you meet a little child, 1, 2, 3 years of age, you lie on the floor, or you go down like this and you talk with a little, because you want to meet this person. So I think if we meet people that are not aware of this fascia thing and all the other things, we have to meet them where they are. You have to tune in, and then you can tell them some small parts of it, not the whole thing, because, they will be scared and he's totally crazy, they will think. So we have to tune in.
Yeah. You can keep the mic. You can behålla micken.
Yes.
He's always trying to pass the mic when it's done. It's like, no, it's yours. Please say what you want to say. We have time. I think I have said what I want to say. Do you have anything you want to say?
It's done.
Always, but I'll stop.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Do we have a Tobias or a Jonathan who can take a mic and run and get those questions if we have any questions? We have standing up over there. Mike is coming. Mike is coming over there. Perfect. You can keep yours, so
Yes,
no worries.
I thought I could give.
Yeah. Let's just take a few, just to see what happens. I mean, we're here for you, so.
I think people are getting ready for
Hello, Neil. I'm Sajjad Safari, and I'm working with darkness therapy, sensory deprivation.
Oh.
So I have a question. How do you think the body, a pathology, responds to sensory deprivation or relaxation?
I don't know. When I try it myself, I get tense. And I was trying to learn how to astral project using that. And I was told by the person astral projecting from the next tank over to come help me out, said, wow, your silver cord is tied in a knot. So I'm not the person to ask. But my sense of it, for me the issue is how to get my concepts and my body and my sensations out of the way so I can find what's there, and that's a real struggle for me. But the taste I got of sensory deprivation is, as a practice, that could actually help me do that. But as a busy pathologist, I haven't made time for it. But I don't really have much more than that. Do you have an answer to that question?
Not sure, but what I found out is that when the body relaxes, a lot of emotions or a lot of pain, perhaps, you can touch that.
Yeah.
And we're exploring that, and we're interested in the research to see what comes up with sensory deprivation.
Yeah.
And in the darkness, not only silent retreats, but in complete darkness, what happens?
Yeah, I think it needs work.
Yeah, I think we're the next the next section we're going to talk a lot about those kind of things, like how we experiment, explore, innovate. But I would say, from my point of view, where I come from, the amount of research I've been looking at, the amount of podcast discussions I've had, the amount of amazing people I've met, it's one thing what the research or science says. It's also a thing what you actually experience yourself. And we have put this theoretical knowledge on a pedestal, saying it's like the only explanation for the world. But I mean, I am a person. I see things. I hear things. I talk to people. I sense things, and I have experience in my own body, and that's also valuable. And if you don't think so, well, look around in society, because everyone who's doing something has some sort of experience that they're using. You're not going and like looking up stuff in a book where you're doing lectures. You have this experience inside of your knowledge, inside of your body. And we've experimented a lot with the feeling at a clinic. Like, does people feel safe or comfortable? The feeling of an event like this, do you feel safe, comfortable, that you can be yourself? If you're in that state of mind, it's easier for you to learn. So we experiment with education and the atmosphere where you gather information. And there is probably research on this, but does there have to be for us to consider it something important?
Yeah, and one aspect and that makes the kind of standard research we do, clinical research we do, problematic. The reason I have that response to the isolation tank, in part, my understanding of myself is I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, so I can do stupid things like this, and I have very little sense of the interior of my body. If you ask me to focus on my heart, I can't find it. I don't feel my heart beating. So I go into a tank like that, I don't relax. It's kind of terrifying. And I was having a conversation with someone yesterday about this who's has an aphantasia, meaning most of the people in this room, if I tell you apple, you see an apple in your mind's eye. Not everybody does that. When I read a book, I have an image in my mind's eye of what's happening. Some people don't have that, they simply have the words. We're going to have completely different experiences. And maybe there's, a reach for, let's have gender parity or racial parity in a clinical trial. But when you're talking about the sorts of things we're talking about in a room like this, you can't control for all the varied human things. We're all such different people. And so the process has to be something different. And it has to be holistic, because if you leave that strange part of me out, then we're not going to understand, not a great choice for you. you know, how would someone even talk to me to learn, no, I'm not going to recommend that to you, or someone else, oh, this is the right thing? I think that, I'm not sure that we have those forms.
I think it's always fascinating when I realize that people don't think the way I think. I mean, that's obvious, but then you start to think about it and like, oh yeah, they don't. Like people don't consume information the way I do, feel the way I do, think the way I do, abstract the way I do. And then we talked in the interview with you, Jean-Claude, we talked about how unique we really are. I mean, that was one of the things you said, like everybody you've looked inside is unique. So that's 8.2 billion unique people. I mean, just grasp that for a second, like the uniqueness of it all. And, like you told yesterday, part of the same whole. That is a grand thought. It's an amazing thing. And I think we need to start paying attention to, we are similar in some ways, and you can draw some generalizations or conclusions, but I have no idea what you're thinking. Like, you know, you and me, we know each other, but I have no idea what actually goes on in your mind.
Some people do.
And that's cue. Thank you. Thank you so much for being on stage with us. It was, for me, it's really inspiring. Ivar, will you come up and say some words before the break, or where are you?
I just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
Maria from Ireland, please come and find me in the break. I've been trying to find you. Please find me.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay, then let's applaud them.
Thank you.
Ivar is out in the audience. Actually, while you're walking up here with your coffee, it's the time to, we're soon going to go on a break. The time for mingling, you know, it's over. We're here to do stuff. So start thinking in terms of network. Who do I want to talk to? And there is one thing you can use as a who should I talk to kind of guide. Look around and like, that guy. And then you go up and talk to that person. Like use your intuition, use your senses to see who should I talk to. And then maybe like start with something and then listen. And if everyone are in a state of mind that I'm not gonna like boast of everything I'm doing and so on and so forth, I'd like, who are you? Like why are you here? What do you need? What can you bring? And do that. And just see how it goes. So we have a longer break. I'm just gonna confirm
11:30.
11:30. No, 11:30.
11:30.
That's a long break.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
So 37 minutes, guys. Connect, have fun, and see you here after that.
And I'll see you 11:30 here.
Yeah.
No, 11:35.
11:30. Okay.